Hey Rob, here's the question that you asked. I'll just do it for Una Corda pedal. He had a client who pushes a sustain pedal while using the Una Corda. Random notes would lift two dampers. So, yeah. And then you adjusted the pedal rod that engages the lever under the key bed. So the shift was moving over too far and lifting the neighboring dampers. Yeah, that could be it. It's going over too far, but it's not. I'm going to show you how to adjust it correctly here. I've stopped the neighboring dampers from lifting, but now the shift doesn't seem to go far enough in order for Una Corda. So I guess maybe I can show these movies here. Yeah, these movies right here, this is the first one you sent me. It doesn't look like it's going over at all now. You just don't have enough movement. So it was going over too far, now it's not going over enough. And then there was a second video here. And Rob, I know you know this, but I'm going to put this up there on the poster. So this one is moving right. You see it's moving all the way over, and it's stopping. So I've got a picture here. I'm going to explain a couple different different things. First of all, I'll do my little drawing here. There is an adjustment for how far the piano goes this way, how far the action moves this way. Usually that adjustment can be in the pedals. In other words, you shorten the pedal going up, so that would definitely make it go not as far. But usually on this cheek block right over here, there is a little screw. So the cheek block would be sitting in here, and there's a little screw that stops up against the action right here. Okay, so this little cheek block has a little screw in it. So what you do is you take the cheek block out, and you can turn the screw in like a little bit, put it back in. You can test it and see. So in your case, when it was going over too far, probably the screw was too short. So you want to bring the screw out a little bit so it stops the action. And it usually on this piano it would stop it right here. It would be the screw is up against the key frame right there. On the right side. So that's your first thing to get the shift pedal working, right? So once the shift pedal is working, it'll stop. You want enough up movement in the pedal, and you want your stop to be on this side. So that's typically how a lot of pianos are. If they don't have a stop on this side for some reason, then you do have to work with the pedal. You're probably gonna have to work with the pedal, and possibly sometimes, not always, I'm saying that there could be underneath the piano, underneath there where the pedals are, there could be, like this is the top of the pedal, there could be a screw coming out of the piano at the bottom that stops it from going up. So you can adjust that. And sometimes there's a capstan under there, at least for the sustain pedal on like Yamahas and stuff. Some of them have a little capstan underneath the pedal, so it's like an upstop for the pedal. So check out the adjustments on there and make sure there's nothing under there. The other question you asked is a little more specific. You said that it wasn't, like the action is shifted to the left a little bit too much, so the action is shifted over to the left. In other words, the hammers are not, my son is down there screaming again. He's always screaming. I'm going to go down there and go crazy. It's like he's playing Fortnite, so it's like screaming all the time. So with this, it looks like it's sitting fine, right? It's sitting to the left far enough. But if these hammers right here are not, let's say these hammers are too far over to the left at rest, so they're not lined up with the string, and you don't have any tension on the pedal. Let's see, like this one was fine. Let's see, this one was the one. That one looks actually pretty good. So they should be at rest. They should be hitting the three strings, right? But if they're not, here is what you have to do. If it's too far to the left on older pianos, right in here, okay, inside the cavity of the piano, in the back, where the action butts up against the left side. So the action goes this way, and right in there, where my little arrow is pointing, there is a little block of wood, usually, and it's like a long block of wood, and it's like right there. It's on the left side of the action. It's actually attached to the frame of the piano. It's attached to this part of the piano with like two screws usually. Okay, so if the action is sitting too far, if the hammers are aligned too far to the left, and you know that they're too far to the left, they need to come over to the right. What you have to do is pull the action out, take off the 2 screws of this little block that's screwed into. You'll see it. It's pretty obvious. It's got like usually it's got a piece of felt over it. It's a long, like, skinny piece of wood like this, and it's got a piece of felt over it like this, or maybe a piece like leather or felt, depending on the manufacturer. But what happens is that felt or leather gets smushed down, and so over time the action is drifting to the left slightly, but it could be drifting to the left. And all you got to do if that happens, what I typically do is I take it out. Let me see if I can get this this right color here. Let's see if I can do this. This will kind of explain what I do. I take out the little block of wood. It's like this. It's got 2 screws in it. And I take between the left side of the piano and this, I'll put in little punchings, like maybe a 20 thousandths punching on the back side, and then I'll put my screws back in and put it back in there. In other words, I shim using front rail punchings. I shim this thing. So I'll take this thing out, and you have the little felt on this side. And sometimes you could maybe put another piece of felt on it, but that's not as, maybe you could put a new piece of felt, maybe it would move it over. What I typically tend to do is I take a punching, I put it on the back side of that thing, and I take another punching, put it on the back side, and I maybe even put a little piece of glue on there. And then I put the whole thing back in there. I can't do this with it. So I put the whole thing back in with the punchings, and then I put my screws right back into it. So the punchings are between, okay, the punchings, so you know exactly what I'm saying, are between the rim of the piano here and between this thing. So they're kind of shimmed in there. So I don't do anything on the outside of that piece of wood. So that piece of wood is in there like that, and I just take it off, add a couple punchings behind it, screw it back in. Screw it right back in where it was, and then I put the action back in now. And maybe that's right. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you got it perfect. Before you get the whole thing back in, you can test it. You can put a couple little punchings in there. If it's 20 thousandths, oh, it's not enough. Maybe put a 40 thousandths. Oh, that's too much. Maybe put a 20, and a 10. And it kind of, before you go screw the whole thing back in and put it all back together, you kind of test and see how much movement do I need. That will shift the action slightly back over to the right, so that the hammer, when you're looking at the 3 strings underneath there, the hammer should be sitting right underneath there. It should be sitting right underneath. And if it's shifted over to the left, the hammer's sitting like this. Maybe it's like sitting kind of like that. It's sitting over to the left. So you need to move the action all the way over to the right. Hope that helps. I'll put this up there for you. But those are the adjustments of getting the action. And I do see this quite a bit. You can find pianos where the action is shifting over, and that you need to get the action shifted over this way a little bit, and then you have your stop screw on this side of the action, like I said. All right, let me know if that helps. Thanks.